Siler.
Yes.
Welcome to the InRoads podcast.
All right.
Thank you
for having me.
being here. So what would I call you if it wasn't Mr. Siler?
A lot of people call me B-Side or
B-Side.
King Kong.
King Kong.
Yeah.
Where's King Kong come from?
Well, my granddaddy was a boxer.
Okay.
And he fought Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
Right? Probably the athlete that I look up to the most, Muhammad Ali. And his nickname was Gorilla. So his essence, I'm
look
King
at that.
Kong.
King Kong. I
There
see
we
that
go.
now. Okay. Okay, King Kong. So tell me about your 5-year-old self. If you were driving in a car with your 5-year-old self and you were to look behind you and you were to see little 5-year-old you looking right back, what would your 5-year-old self say he was most surprised by in your life and how things have turned out for you?
I'm different, right? I'm re-engineered a different way.
Okay.
My 5-year-old self probably wouldn't be surprised about anything.
Really?
My 5-year-old self was different. I always was a little bit different, right? I was raised in the projects in Pine Hills, but everybody around me always knew that there was something different about me, right?
So describe different.
I was the kid that, even though I could beat somebody up and tackle them on a football field and excel in basketball and baseball, I had a 4.2 GPA.
Wow.
And everybody in the community could tell you about my heart. So I was always different, even when there was something bad happening, the hood kids would always say, B-Side, I need you to get out of here, right? So it was always that something special that my 5-year-old self had that people seen a long time ago. So I think that I'm right on path with what that 5-year-old seen.
Do you think that growing up you always knew that and had that sense of security and self-awareness?
I think that I always expected it. My mom was a strong woman in my life, and she disciplined me in a way like no other, in ways that, now today probably
we don't talk about that.
Wouldn't be that great, right?
Yeah.
But those were the things, and she installed that kind of discipline in me when I was young, right? Didn't let me partake in a lot of the things that people around me were doing. So it made me understand that there was something different and special about myself.
And that's something that you've owned. And going through what you have been through, you had to have kind of probably had to harness that as almost one of your superpowers, I imagine, and own it. And it probably helped propel you in a lot of ways, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of people that look at everything that I'm doing and they always ask, like, how are you doing so much? How are you still, being super dad, husband, but still taking care of 4,500 NFL players and running 7 businesses at one time, right? And still going to school. I got a year left till I get my doctorate in business.
Wow.
Right? I've went back to the University of Florida and I got my degree, right? Because I left early, got my degree. Then I went. Got my MBA in business. I got 2 degrees from MIT, business certificates, one from Harvard, one from Wharton Business School, one from Yale. So I'm always I'm chasing learning, right? I want my brain to continually grow and learn. And I put people around me that when I don't know what's best, they do. When I'm bad at something, I put somebody around me that's good at it,
Build that network,
That's how it works.
Tell me, talk me through your career journey and how you got to be where you are, where you have all these degrees and run all these businesses.
Well, I was, I chose University of Florida, went there. I was the SEC Freshman Player of the Year.
Okay.
As soon as I got on campus, I told the advisor to load my schedule up so I graduate in 3 years. Because I knew that I wanted to change the financial dynamic of my family. And at any opportunity, I was going to go to the NFL.
Okay.
So I said, 3 years, getting that degree. So I would have gotten it in 3 years, except I didn't realize that you only spend 2.5 years on campus. So then you have to go train for the combine. That's why I had to go back and get my degree. So I went to Florida. I was the captain of the national championship team in '06. Where we have a Netflix documentary that's coming out where it goes over that period of years where Tim Tebow's following behind me, trying to become the best leader that he can be, and it worked, right? So we won a national championship. Then I get upset in the draft, supposed to get drafted in the first round, first or second round, and I get drafted in the seventh. I like to say that I lost about $15 million that day, right? So
were you getting nervous in that moment, waiting for?
Of course. Like, did my agent not put my name in? Like, what's
you
going
missed
on
it.
here? Right.
It's one or two, like right there. It's right
like,
there.
why is nobody calling my name, right? So it's a different experience being a seventh round draft pick when you get drafted in the NFL, right? You're in the background. I didn't get to play, got labeled as a special teamer. So never really achieved what I wanted to those first few years because I was barely making the team, because of where I got drafted. And then in my third and fourth year, I actually propelled to the top and played linebacker and was proving myself. And in my fifth year, after my 4 years of my first contract, I got paid.
Wow.
It was my big payday coming, and then the lockout happens, the NFL lockout. So NFL lockout happens, fifth year, I have to sign for 1 year to Kansas City. All right, so I'm playing great, best shape of my life. I'll play this 1 year and prove myself.
Sure.
Last practice of the last play before our first game, tear my Achilles, out for the season.
No
so my fifth year, I'm out for the season. My sixth year, I come back. Javon Belcher shoots himself in the head at the facility in Kansas City. I was the closest person to him on the team. We played the same. We were the only two people on the team that played Mike linebacker. And when he did that, I was actually calling his cell phone as I was pulling into the facility and heard the shot and could look down and see. So that was very traumatic. And as a matter of fact, that was on a Saturday. We played on Sunday. And everywhere his name was, they scratched out his name and wrote my name. So after that, my love for the game left, and I had to find a new identity. And that's what's tough on a lot of people. And in my case, I walked away from the game. I'd never been cut, right? So I walked away, which is a blessing in a sort of way, right? When I walked away from the game, I walked away. I made that decision.
That choice.
Most people don't. Right? It's 98% of guys, they don't make that decision. The game is done with them, and they have to come to that realization. When I left, I went back to UF, went and got my degree, and then I went and talked in front of the UF alumni, boosters, whatnot, and I told them, like, look, I'm not looking for a job. I'm not going to go cut anybody's lawn, right? I said, but I am looking for a career. So if you need somebody that's bright, somebody that's a leader, somebody that has new ideas and new brilliance that they can put into a company that needs that shakeup, I'm your man. And I must have been very persuasive in the talk because everybody bid on me like Shark Tank,
Oh, that's
right?
so funny.
They were trying to
They
get me,
started
trying to whatever, and I landed on David Nabavi, who played 10 years before me. He was at CMEX, and he recruited me on to manage the ready mix department at CMEX.
Okay.
So we had, I took the apartment sector, and we were doing 5% of apartment complexes at the time. 2.5 years later, when I left, we were doing 65% of all apartment complexes. So safe to say, I kind of excelled in that role. And then I dealt with my own mental health issues. I had a lot of guys that were coming to me that was dealing with this same sort of thing. They couldn't get these disabilities from the NFL. And I started digging into why, right? And the more that I dug, the more and more I got upset. The more and more I saw why they couldn't get through it. And I had about 6 of my buddies that came to me and just asked for my help. Like, they come ask the smart guy, help me. And I dug, I figured it out, and I got them to the finish line. And it brought me so much satisfaction, so much joy that I was dealing with my mental health issues, and it got me out of that rut, like seeing that I could help other people in that way. And that's when the light bulb went off. That's when I started saying, oh shit, this makes me feel as good as that made me feel back in the day, if not better, right? So then there's the school. I'm going back. I want to learn more, how to run a business, how to do this, how to do that, and then continually helping these guys to now, 5 years later, I'm like the Amazon in that space. So I have about 5,000 players that I represent, and I get them disabilities, whether it's line of duty, which is was orthopedic disability, a neurocognitive, or a total and permanent disability. I help guys I'm the bridge that gets them to the money that is out there for them. It's a statute of limitations on a lot of this stuff, and if
a lot of
you
complexity
if you
to it.
fail it, it's complex.